No, Secretary, I have to say it's nice to see you in person. Sa mga billboard ka lang namin nakikita, ang dami. Ang biro nga ng iba ay mas nakikita pa nila kayo kumpara sa kanilang kapamilya. Sino pong pumupondo ng inyong kampanya?
Ang nakakatuwa kung titignan mo, iba-iba nakalagay. May nakalagay na kalaban ng kriminal, may nakalagay na gawa hindi salita, may nakalagay na tama. Kasi mga volunteer po lahat ito. Lahat sila ay kung saan lugar, bigyan ko lang daw sila ng design, sila nagpapagawa. So, yung iba dyan, part ng party list. So, it's galing sa baba. Kaya ako yung taus-puso nagpapasalamat for this act of volunteerism.
But who funds your campaign, Secretary?
Well, it's just us and of course some friends. Yeah.
Meron na ho ba kayong datos kung magkano na ang nagagastos ninyo sa inyong kampanya?
Hindi naman ganun kalaki, no? Meron kaming ginagastos talagang ang ano lang dyan is of course yung mga pinapagawa mo mga posters na iba na para sa iyo, no? Sa sarili mo. And then some ads probably on television. Yun.
So walang ballpark figure?
Mahirap magbigay ng ballpark figure. Hindi ko masyadong kabisado ito, but I assure you, we're within the limits of the law.
You were making arrest after arrest after arrest nung panahon nyo bilang DILG Secretary.
Yeah,
Pagkatapos yung desisyon na tumakbo, kailan ho ba dumating yung desisyon na tumakbo kayo bilang senador?
Well, naging mayor ako, naging congressman ako, naging chairman ako ng MMDA, naging DILG ako, tapos I think 1 month pa lang noon, naalala ko, no, it was Bantag, no? After a month, it was Congressman Pebes. And then came the 990 kilos of shabu. Even though mga resignation, if you will recall, kay Alice Goo. And then the last was Apollo Akibuloy. Sabi ko sa Pangulo, sir, eto na po, I've mission accomplished, siguro nagawa ko na lahat. So sabi ng mga kasama ko, why would you resign? You're just like a little president with the DILG. Because may kulang eh. Nakita ko na yung kulang sa paggawa ng batas. And hindi lang sa paggawa ng batas, but you could use that oversight power of the Senate to look at those ng mga batas na dapat pang ba't hindi ini-implement ka? Bakit ganito?
Katulad ng?
Well, marami, no? Marami yan. For example, tignan natin yung problema natin sa agriculture ngayon. It's all about smuggling. Isa sa nagpapahirap sa atin yan, hindi ba? So, these kind of things, no? The Senate has that broad power. Kung anong frustrations ko nung nandun ako, pwede ko lang magawa dito, ito na yun eh. Kasi I've worn so many hats, Carmina, no? Different type of hats. Na tingin ko, kaya nga sabi ko, I'm going to give up that position, no? To try this one.
Balikan po natin yun. So it was your decision, wala pong nagutsok sa inyo?
Yeah, it was my decision.
Okay, we're gonna go to that in a bit. But first, itong mga arestong pinag-usapan natin, yung mga dinetalye nyo po ngayon, sabi nyo po, yun yung nagutsok sa inyo para tumakbo?
No, hindi lang yun. Those were the last things na nagawa ko to accomplish. Yung sabi ko, mission accomplish ko na ito as the ILG.
How would you disabuse the minds of those who think na this was by design? Na kinailangan nyo itong mga arestong ito para bumango ang pangalan ninyo para masegundahan, masuportahan yung pagtakbo nyo bilang senador?
Well, like for example, the case of Pastor Apollo Kibuloy, how can that be by design? Hirap na hirap nga kami hanapin. At dinimanda pa kami. Even up to now, may mga demanda pa ako nakukuha kay Pastor Apollo Kibuloy tungkol po rito. Kay Arnie Torres, how could that be by design? Pinagbababaril niya yung mga tao, no? So, it's not, Carmina. It's just that hindi lang naman ito eh, no? Marami akong na-accomplish noon na sabi ko ito magagawa ko. I'll give you one example. Yung 400 na previous MILF and MNLF, minamadali ko yan. That's in accordance with the peace process. I think it's 1.5 years ago. Only 1% passed to be a member of the Philippine National Police. Imagine mo, former rebels are now Philippine National Police, LNPs, and they're doing very good. Sa totoo lang. No? So marami ito. Even, look at our jail. Ang jail natin, ang statistics is for every 3 na nakakalaya, isa bumabalik. So I was telling sa ating BJMP, okay, if it's all about jail, that's not the solution. You think out of the box. Kung ikaw yung preso, paglabas mo, anong una mo napit? Trabaho. Number 2, paglabas mo, may branding ka pa. Hindi pa ka pinagkakatiwalaan. So dapat sa loob pa lang, there should be skills training. Papasukin mo yan. And paglabas, trabaho, how do we do it? Tinawagan namin Secretary Benny Laguesa of Dole. And we told them, you've got this 2-file program. Unahin mo ito. So lahat ng lalabas ngayon na kulungan, may trabaho.
So it looks like, or it looked like, you had everything under control. Nakakapag-coalesce kayo with different agencies to get to your goals. Pag may nakita kayong problema, nabibigyan nyo ng solusyon.
Pero hindi rin lahat eh. Hindi rin lahat, Carmina.
What would being a senator do? What
Hindi rin
would being a
lahat. Like
senator
for example, in budget. Sa budget na lang. No? Nung nakaraan, humingi ako ng budget for our jail. Dahil we have some jail na talagang, isipin mo, nakaupo lang sila by schedule para humiga ka. By schedule, you can't even lie down. At kung umuulan, ililipat mo pa ng aluhan. So I was asking for budget like that, hindi ko nakuha. No, marami frustrations na dumaan.
But there is an agency, an entire agency devoted to that.
Precisely.
Bakit hindi nakukuha yung budget?
Precisely. Kasi nga, that's the discretion of the Senate and the Congress. That's budget, doon nang gagaling.
So ang sinasabi niyo po ngayon, intindin niyo yung mga problema, kaya pag kayo'y nandun na, mas may appreciation.
Yes, I'll give you one example. The local government code. Ito po yung code na nagsasabi of the responsibility ni governor, ni mayor, and the national government. It's a good code. Pero after 31 years, it was done 1991, nakita mo yung defect. For example, nakalagay doon, ang gagawa ng tertiary hospital, ang province. Not all provinces are rich. Hindi nila kaya.
Correct.
So kung hindi niya magawa yung tertiary hospital, who will suffer? Yung mamamayan sa baba. So I think on this level, it should now be the national government. Number 2, schools. Under the local government, ang dapat mapagawa ang mga lokal na pamahalaan.
Kung wala na namang pera.
Precisely. Kawawa. So who will suffer? Third, barangay roads. Nakalagay doon, mapapagawa ng barangay roads ang barangay. And I tell you this, because the ALG, walang barangay, 99% hindi nila kaya ito. So there's a lot. Kaya nga, yun ang aking magiging priority.
So piecemeal devolution, hindi pwedeng lahat.
Babaguhin ko. I've already done my job. Kinausap ko na ang League of Governors, League of Vice Governors, lahat ng leagues, up to barangay captain, up to mayors, nirefer ko to sa LGA, even the national agency, pinagbangga ko na ito, ipa-file ko na lang ito, if ever.
Secretary, tama o mali?
Yes.
Produkto kayo ng dinastiya.
Well, if we're going to define dynasty, no, it depends on how you define it. Kung simply anak ka lang, I'm a product of dynasty, yes, I will admit that.
When did you realize that it was your birthright to take over Mandaluyong? And then after that, bumalik sa tatay nyo, and then ngayon naman, sa asawa ninyo.
It was never a birthright, if I will correct it. You know, lumaki kami sa pamilyang nakikita mo yung ginagawa ng magulang mo. And when I ran, I was a counselor. I ran against a vice mayor who was also the son of a mayor. So it was never a birthright. I have to go through an election. Kailangan ilatag ko ang gagawin ko. No? Kasi before I ran, I was the lawyer of vendors, tricycle drivers, jeepney drivers. Matagal ako naging abogado nila. Even up to now, I'm the lawyer of Todas in the National Capital Region. Siguro, and even when I was in elementary, I was always the class president. Even during law school, I was part of the student council twice. So it was never a birthright. It was embedded in me. Pagkatao ko na yung Carmina.
So kapag this time around umangat na naman sa Senado ang topic tungkol sa dinastiya, and to put in a law, an anti-dynasty law, ano ho ang boto ninyo?
Well, napakasimple ng pananaw ko dyan. Kung sinabi ng konstitusyon na gawin namin, by all means, we should do it. We should first define what dynasty is. Ito ba yung first degree? Ibig sabihin po ng first degree ay mag-ama, o kaya naman yung tatay at yung lolo niya, isa. Or 2 degrees, no? Or 3rd degree, it will depend. Mas makakatulong nga ito kung merong isang batas in the world na pwede nating i-benchmark, no? Kung sinasabi ng saligang batas yan, dapat lamang gawin natin yan.
Kanina po, kinuwento ninyo kung paano kayo napadpad dito sa kasalukuyang sitwasyon ninyo. Even as a kid, you were a class president all the way up to law school and up to now. Yun ay kwento ninyo. Iba po ang kwento ninyo dun sa kwento ng asawa ninyo. Bakit ho siya ang tatakbo ngayon?
Well, alam mo, ang kasama ko parati ever since ay ang asawa ko. I'll give you one example. You know the problem about stunting? Ang laki problema natin yan.
Oh, of course.
Ang ibig sabihin po ng stunting is that ang mga bata ay hindi lumalaki at ang utak nila ay damaged. Bakit? Kulang sa nutrition. Isa sa bawat 3 bata ay stunted. That is on record. That was during my time. Ngayon daw nag-improve na. It's 1 out of 4. Masama pa rin. But going back 2000, ginawa namin to, I asked the help of my wife. At siya naging chairman ng Nutrition Council namin. At siya ang kauna-unahang Nutrition Action Officer sa buong Pilipinas. She founded that organization, Nutrition Action Officer. Lahat ng buntis sa amin, kami na tinutukan namin. Buntis pa lang, binigyan ng pagkain, folic acid, pagkapanganak, tutok na naman to, and then breastfeeding, until we became number 1 nutrition in Metro and number 1 in the whole country. Inalo pa namin aming education with laptops lahat. You know what? Number 1 kami ngayon sa National Achievement Test. So on her own, I will say my wife did this own thing. Talaga nagtrabaho siya for this. No, hindi lang basta sabi mo kasi totoo lang iba panahon ngayon eh. You've got social media, no, a lot, and people can complain with the ombudsman. So, and you have to go through an election. At maraming sinasabi tayong dinastiya na nawala sa Metro Manila. You can count on them.
Despite everything that you said, Secretary,
Yes.
Sa lahat po ng sinasabi nung nagawa ninyo at napatunayan ninyo, bakit ho sa survey, pag yun ang pagbabasihan, hindi po pumapalo ang mga numero ninyo? Bakit sa tingin nyo, yan ang sitwasyon?
Well, okay lang naman kung hindi ka pumapalo. It depends on the kind of survey that you have and we have. There's a lot of different surveys that we have. No? Basta ako, this is my platform. Ito yung pagkatao ko. Ito yung ginawa ko. We still have 80 days. No? Let's see where it will go from there.
How do you keep yourself in check? Pag kayo po, alam nyo ang mundo ng politika, nakita nyo na ho yung dumi niyan. Pero paano mo sinisigurado na nasa tama ka?
Alam mo, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin tama kaya. Dapat, it's always good to consult people. It's always good na tawagin mo yung tao, sabihin sa'yo, yung masama sa'yo, yung mabuti sa'yo. Hindi puro mabuti, mas mabuti nga, sabihin sa'yo yung mali mo eh. At yun ang reality check. At yun ang titignan mo. Whenever I solve a problem, ang una kong tinitignan kagad, kung gagawin ko ito, sinong tatamaan, sino maapektuhan, and how do we make sure na yung tatamaan ay matulungan naman natin. It's always like that. That's how you anticipate and solve a problem as far as I'm concerned.
Kayo po ay naging bahagi ng administrasyon ni Pangulong Duterte. Naging bahagi rin kayo ng administrasyon ni Pangulong Marcos. Anti-Duterte ho ba kayo?
Well, actually, no. It's not being anti or pro or what. It's about the issues that's being told to you. It's not about the personality. No. Kung minsan may mga bagay na lumalabas na maaring itong taong ito nagsabi, pero mas kaibigan mo siya. Kung yun namang issue na yun ay talagang labag sa kalooban mo, talagang tatayuan mo yan. Hindi ka doon.
Meron kayong issue na tinindigan laban kay Pangulong Duterte?
Sa ngayon, for one, I'm pro-life eh. I'm not pro-death, yung mga patay-patay. Ever since I've been pro-life, ever since I've lost my child, my eldest daughter, I've lost my mom. So for me, life is precious. Kung salbahe ka, abayaan mo mabulok ka sa kulungan. You suffer there. No? Kasi may kanya-kanya tayong pananaw at nirespeto ko po yun. Importante naman dito respetuhan eh.
Meron na ho ba kayong issue na tinindigan laban kay Pangulong Marcos naman?
lamang kay Pangulong Marcos, well, during his time, wala naman so far. Wala naman.
Yung kinabibilangan niyo pong alyansa para sa bagong Pilipinas, ang tingin ng mga tao, lumang politika, lumang mga pangalan, paano nyo maitataguyod ang bagong Pilipinas kung puro luma naman kayo na nandun sa administration slate?
Well, unang-una, tignan nyo yung plataformang binibigay. Tignan mo yung advokasiyang binibigay. Kung sasabihin mong luma ako, wala akong problema, maski bago pa lang ako tatakbo sa Senado, I'm a neophyte senator. Pero ito sasabihin ko sa inyo, maski luma ako, naging congressman ako. 2005, I filed this one. I'm against EVAT on electricity. Iila lang kami noon. At sinasabi ko, once magkaroon tayo ng EVAT sa kuryente, it will affect manufacturing. It will affect the cost. It will be one of the drivers for inflation. Up to now, after 20 years, pinag-uusapan ito.
So ano pong gagawin niyo pag
I will
nakatungtong
stand
kayo?
against it. Tatayuan ko to. And I will file a bill na tanggalin at the very least yung EVAT sa kuryente. Bakit? Once matanggal mo yan, dadami ang mga kumpanyang papasok. Kasi sa ngayon, isipin mo, pangalawa tayo sa pinakamahal na kuryente sa Asia after Singapore. This is one of the hindrance. No? And how can you promote manufacturing and other kind of things kung doon pa lang sa kuryente, talo ka na. But once tanggalin mo ito, sabihin na malaki mawala sa gobyerno, okay. Pero may kapalit yan. Ano yun? Dadami naman ang ibang klaseng negosyo. Dadami ang trabaho sa tao at magiginhawa ang tao. Second point, nung ako yung naging Secretary of the Department of the Interior Local Government, nilapitan ako ng National Grid. Ang sabi sa akin ng National Grid, Secretary, hindi namin makonect yung Visayas and Mindanao. Kako, matagal na ba yan? Yes, 5 years na po. 5 years. Why? Ayaw kami bigyan ng permit. Ha? I created a task force in 1 year. 26 transmissions line. Immediately, nandun na. Constructed. Isipin mo na, it took them 5 years na pwede naman gawin. All of these processes, all of this, dapat i-review maigi ito.
Secretary, anong pananaw ninyo dun sa mga magkakamag-anak, magkakapatid na magkakasama sa Senado?
Well, unang-una, binoto ng tao yan. Ngayon, ang
Pero may delikadesa, di ba? Pwede namang humindi. Pwede namang sabihin, ikaw muna kuya, ikaw muna ate, labas muna ako.
Ito kasi nagiging problema natin. We are governed by the laws of men. Ito yung batas natin. Delikadesa is something na sa sarili mo na lang yan. No? But it's not within the law itself. Bahala ka na. If you want that, that's my choice of yours. But I'm looking at this objectively. By law, if you're allowed to do that, so be it. Pero you have to go through this process at the end of the day. Ang tao magsasabi do they allow it or not? Masama ba to o hindi? May nagawa ba mabuti? May nagawa ba masama? Asa tao rin to
Okay. Final question for me before we go into the cards, Mr. Secretary. Ngayon po ang nangyayari bangayan sa dalawang kampo. Kampo ng mga Marcos, kampo ng mga Duterte, pinagsilbihan niyo po parehong administrasyon. Ano ang tingin niyo? Anong pananaw niyo sa bangayang nangyayari ngayon?
Well, ang bangayan nangyayari ngayon, alam mo, tatlong bahagi ito, parang silya yan Meron tayong executive, legislative, and judiciary. No? Yung pong tigagawa ng batas ang legislative. Yung tiga-implementa ng batas ay ang executive. At kung nag-aaway ang dalawa, ang nag-i-interpret ay ang judiciary. Hindi pwede magsanib puwersa ang dalawang bahagi niyan. Yan ang pundasyon ng ating bansa. Dapat marespeto ito. Kung ano man bangayan, meron sila. Legal man o hindi, pabayaan mo ang judikatura ang magsabi nito kung sinong tama at kung sinong mali. Lahat ito ay may proseso tayo.
Secretary Abalos, you're telling me that we will give you now a chance to give your final statement. Bakit po kayo karapat-dapat na maihalal sa Senado?